It's no secret that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has helped make many previously unknown comic characters a household name, but who are those still deserving of the honor? Specifically in our friendly neighborhood universe. Up first is someone who should have received double exposure considering he fought both Spider-Man and the X-Men, and I love him, and he actually did beat Spider-Man, Dr. Karl Lykos, also known by the cooler name Sauron. He's a two-part act. He starts out as Dr. Lykos, a semi-regular human geneticist that must absorb the life force of living things to survive. Then the magic happens when he absorbs the life force of a mutant. That's when he turns into his fursona Sauron, a pterodactyl-like humanoid. So like body of a man but green and ripped, and a pterodactyl head, tail, and wings. Now Dr. Lykos is not perfect, but he's also not really a villain yet. That's Sauron. His personality gets distorted when he shifts. Sauron is known for his super strength, hypnotic ability, and oddly enough, a meme. He appeared in Spider-Man and the X-Men, and of course it was a conversation with our sarcastic spider that gave us this gem. Spider-Man, in disbelief, asks Sauron why he turns people into dinosaurs when he could instead be using his DNA rewriting abilities to cure cancer, to which Sauron responds, and I quote, "But I don't want to cure cancer, I want to turn people into dinosaurs." Incredible. No notes, buddy. I am so obsessed with this line, but please let me know in the comments down below your favorite superhero quote. Up next is Beetle, and he has beef with everybody. For reference, he's brawled with the Avengers, Daredevil, Spidey of course, the Fantastic Four, and Iron Man. To be fair to Beetle, the mask has been donned by about 7 different people. Spidey's Beetle was Abner Jenkins. What tragedy caused his sudden switch to villainhood? He was bored and poor. To rephrase, he was a talented mechanic working for an aircraft producer, but the job didn't pay very well and it just kinda was not that interesting to him. In search of something more, he decided the best way to gain international recognition was to make a suit of armor, call himself Beetle, and try to beat half of the Fantastic Four. Go big or go home. One of his big ideas involved kidnapping Dory Evans, the Human Torch's girlfriend. This plan was foiled by, of course, Spider-Man. Next villain was actually commissioned by someone we already know, J. Jonah Jameson. Jameson loves nothing more than seeing Spider-Man suffer, so much so that he commissioned a robotic expert, Spencer Smite, to create the now iconic Spider Slayers. The first couple rounds of the robot suits, they had designs that have very strong coils to trap Spider-Man, and they were equipped with the ability to track spider DNA. Anything with spider DNA. This went just about as well as you're thinking. Spidey led the villain into a different spider exhibit, and the suit promptly had a breakdown. The first Smite did make it to suit 6 before it was ultimately his undoing. Then his son took up the mantle, Mr. Alistair Smythe, now hating Spider-Man to the extreme because in a roundabout way Spidey killed his dad. He got busy and refused to give up. He clocked over 15 different versions of the Spider Slayer's suits before a prison riot gone wrong resulted in a fight with Spider-Man in which Alistair was impaled on his own blade. Hydroman is a Spidey-made problem. Hydroman started out as a normal guy, Morris Bench. He was just a guy making a living working on cargo ships. One of the ships was holding a very powerful experimental generator, which are never words you want to hear living in this universe. The generator was being lowered into the ocean for testing, and as luck would have it, Morris Bench got knocked overboard by Spider-Man. Upon rescue, poor Morris began to sweat, or so he thought. One pub trip later, and to his shock, he discovered that he could turn himself into water. Though we have yet to see Hydroman in the MCU, the water elemental in 2019's Spider-Man Far From Home is a close second. Producer Eric Carroll stated that he's of course inspired by a B-list Spider-Man villain called Hydroman. Though the elementals turned out to be fake, a couple were based on very real villains, in the Spider-Man universe anyway. I'm not saying I agree with our next villain, but I can't deny that she has a point. Coldheart, she's a skilled swordswoman, martial artist, and owner of 2 cryonic swords that freeze objects instantly. Coldheart believes that superheroes commit crimes against humanity too great to be ignored. When a hero saves a city, or sometimes even a planet, it comes with a lot of destruction and innocent civilian casualties. One of these civilian casualties once was what caused Kateri Deserantos to turn into Coldheart. Her son Joey was killed in a brawl between an unnamed villain and hero. Since that day, Kateri vowed to get revenge on the superheroes of the world. It's implied that she had acted out her revenge on a few heroes using a suit provided to her by the agency she was working for. She did go after Spider-Man, but stopped her pursuit suit after Spider-Man saved another villain's child. The child begged her to spare him, and he quite literally thawed her heart. What thawed mine was the Christmas edition for Miss Coldheart and the story of her arrest. It's no secret this woman has been through it, and she misses her son so much that she still gives him Christmas presents. Spider-Man tracked Coldheart to her apartment, seeing her through the window gifting presents to her family. She was shortly arrested after, and when Spider-Man entered the premises, he discovered that her family was actually inanimate dolls. Feeling sorry for her, he left a gift at her prison window, a framed photo of her family. Our next foe not only fought Spider-Man physically, but also mentally. Miles Warren, later Jackal, was a biochemistry professor at Empire State University. While teaching there, he fell in love with his student, Gwen Stacy, Spider-Man's girlfriend at the time. When Gwen Stacy did unfortunately die, Miles blamed Spider-Man and began attempting to clone humans. This is when he turned into the villain Jackal. He worked to create clones of Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker, and through analyzing Peter's cells, he discovered that Peter was Spider-Man. He succeeded in creating a horrible version of Gwen that could degenerate any living thing she touched. He also created a clone of himself that Spider-Man had to defeat to save his best friend. Jackal is incredibly smart, strong, and agile. One of my personal favorite villains on this list is White Rabbit, civilian name Lorena Dodson. She had a good life. She grew up in a wealthy family. It was just a bit boring for her. She married a significantly older man at age 25, which ended up turning into the catalyst for her life of crime. She killed her husband and used the inheritance she received from the accident to purchase all the tech she'd need for her new crime-filled lifestyle. White Rabbit is incredibly intelligent and grew up reading to escape her mundane life. The novels later inspired her criminal activities. She ended up planning a Lewis Carroll-inspired robbing spree with popular Spider-Man villain Venom. Why Lewis Carroll? He wrote Alice in Wonderland, and she's White Rabbit, one of the characters. Some of her other robberies include fast food restaurants and book fairs. I love her, she's camp, and I'm obsessed. She later was hired as part of a villain army to kill, surprisingly not Spider-Man, but Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative originated out of a gang in China called the Snakeheads, which was heavily involved in human trafficking. During a trip in which he was helping transport slaves from China to the USA, the ship crashed and he stole the identity of Martin Lee, a deceased slave. Upon arriving in New York, the now Martin Lee went in search of fellow snakeheads in the city, but they were all deceased. He was captured and brought to a chemist that performs horribly illegal and mostly fatal tests on vulnerable individuals. The current tests are for a substance called D-Light, which gives survivors powers related to the Dark Forest. For Mr. Negative, that means super strength, reflexes, and a healing touch, as well as a corrupting/brainwashing touch. Despite his name though, technically he's not all negative. Martin Lee still lives within Mr. Negative and is kinda like the kind alter ego, whereas Mr. Negative is the demonic, later turned New York crime boss half of him. As to why he was sought after by a mini-villain army, when another Spider-Man villain, the Hood, aims to rule New York, specifically the criminal underworld, Negative does not yield, and it basically starts a turf war. Mr. Negative later went on to help power up another Spider-Man villain known as Hammerhead. Hammerhead's life has never been easy. He was hit in the head with a hammer as a child by his father. He later ended his father's life in order to join a mob. His next head-related injury came from an alley fight. His skull was shattered and then replaced with one made of steel. That's kind of where he got the name the first time. The guy went through a series of gang wars before getting to his next head injury, this one being a gunshot through the back of his head. Mr. Negative, remember him? He offered to replace Hammerhead's whole upper skeleton with one made of adamantium, a practically indestructible material. Hammerhead now enjoys super strength and of course, durability. Hammerhead's last injury actually happened right beside another extremely popular Spider-Man villain, Black Cat. She was head of her own gang at one point, and Hammerhead was her second in command. I am biased because I am a cat person, and Black Cat has been my favorite Superman villain since I was a little girl. Honestly, I'm shocked she hasn't officially shown up yet. There have been many tries to get her on the silver screen, most recently the cancelled film Silver and Black. A character was introduced in the Amazing Spider-Man film series that was intended to become Black Cat, but the third movie was never made. Black Cat is most known for her bad luck. With the average black house cat, you have nothing to worry about. With her though, use a 10-foot pole. She had cyber enhancements done to her body that literally affect whether or not you will experience bad luck. Her suit has sharp claws, enhanced strength, and she is highly skilled in many martial arts. She takes after her father, a master thief who encouraged her to always be the best version of herself. Thanks for listening along to what I've decided to sink my claws into today. If there is anyone you think I missed, please let me know in the comments down below. And while you're clicking away, you might as well just like and subscribe. See you later. Signing off.